They told me two things when I first arrived on the Vegas Strip. The house always wins, and war. War never changes. I'd heard rumours of a settlement still untouched by the atomic fires of the last Great War. A shining jewel in the Nevada desert, a remnant of the old world. New Vegas, a place where any man's dreams can become a reality, or crumble to dust around him. After accruing a significant amount of debt with the local casinos, I was due to be removed from the Strip completely and given a permanent ban. This would make me easy pickings for Caesar's legions encamped just over the river of the Hoover Dam. And with President Kimball and the new Californian Republic being completely useless at protecting their own territory, I was very quickly running out of options. In a desperate attempt to remain within the good graces of New Vegas itself, I took a job for the owner of New Vegas, Mr. House. I became a courier, and it was my job to deliver a platinum chip to Mr. House. However, I was ambushed along the way. I don't know what lies in store for me now, or whether I'll even survive this. I guess now I just have to ask myself one very important question. Do I feel lucky? Hey, what's going on guys? Before we discuss the rules of today's challenge, I just want to say that this video was viewer suggested, requested. Is that a word? I don't think so. Anyway, if you guys do have any suggestions, please do let me know in the comments below, and let's discuss the rules for this challenge. So I was actually given a few specific details for this challenge in terms of boundaries of what I'm allowed to use. So Rule 1 is I can only use a unique item. In this case, I've gone with Lucky. So for this challenge, I'll only be using Lucky. Now, Rule 2 stipulates that I am allowed to buy ammo, stim packs, and other weapons, but the weapons I buy must be used to repair the unique item, in this case Lucky. However, in order to repair Lucky, I believe I will need the jury rigging perk, which will require a repair skill of 90 and to be at level 14 in order to get said perk. But I do not believe I'm ever going to achieve this in this challenge, so I've just put a straight ban on all other weapons and armor, so I'm only allowed to use Lucky for combat. And since I'm not really allowed to have any other weapons or armor in my inventory, this effectively means that I won't be able to sell anything, making getting caps very difficult. Well, at least until I get to the casinos anyway. And Rule 3, no companions with the exception of scripted events. Or at least for combat anyway. So for example, I can use Veronica to get into the BOS bunker, but nothing really other than that. So to start with, I awake dazed and confused in the backwater town of Goodsprings where a banjo or two wouldn't go amiss. I called myself lucky, kinda seemed appropriate for this challenge. I drained charisma and strength as those attributes are going to be useless to me. I put perception, intelligence, agility and luck all to 8. I had a specific reason for this. So in order to actually obtain lucky, I'm going to need a lockpick skill of 75. So for my tag skills, I picked guns, lockpick, and sneak. And for my traits, the first one I picked was good-natured, giving me a +5 to all non-combat skills, while -5 to all combat skills. However, the only combat skill I'm going to be using is guns, so I'm not really too concerned about that. And my second trait I picked was early bird, and this is why I put everything I could up to 8. You see, the early bird perk actually gives you a +2 bonus to all your special attributes between the hours of 6 AM and 12 AM. This effectively means that for 6 hours of the day, I'm going to have 10 intelligence, agility, perception, and luck. The drawback, of course, being that at night time I'm going to receive a -1 to all my special skills, so I'll have to be selective about what time I'm doing certain things. The first thing I did was drop all weapons and armor that I had on me, given to me at the start of the game. While the tutorial is actually skippable, following it to completion will give you 100 experience. I was allowed to use the varmint rifle here because I wasn't using it for combat. I let Sunny Smiles deal with all the geckos as I couldn't actually fight them yet, but I'd still get the experience for completing this part of the tutorial. Also, Cheyenne died here, which upset me more than I thought it would. But I got my free 50 experience, as well as another 50 for completing the tutorial and seeing Trudy. Before I can even get lucky, I need a lockpick skill of 75, so getting all the experience I can early on is very important. So I repaired Trudy's radio and then waited till 6 AM where my attributes would be higher in order to convince her to give me more caps. I still didn't have a high enough speech skill though, so I reloaded, bought a beer, which would boost my charisma skill just enough in order to allow me to pass the speech check. I also hacked Trudy's terminal and picked the lock on the left in order to get enough experience to level up. I put every point I had into lockpick as it was necessary to get lucky. I think I've said that like 60 times now. I also took the Swift Learner perk so that I would get a 10% bonus to all experience gained. Convincing Trudy and Doc Mitchell to help with the Ghost Town gunfight wasn't really too much of a problem. And after buying a salesman weekly, I was able to get Chet on board as well. Now I had my army. So at the minute, I can't really fight because I still don't have lucky. However, I just let the residents of Good Springs deal with the powder gangers for me. The last one held out for quite a while, but eventually he did go down. I spent some of the time in the Ghost Town gunfight just kind of hiding behind a rock and using the residents as human meat shields. This got me some experience, but not enough to hit level 3. I would need to hit level 3 if I was ever going to be able to get lucky. After talking to Sunny Smiles, she gave me a Lockpicks Reader magazine which temporarily increases lockpicking by 10 points. Then I headed to Prim before realising, oh, I can't actually do anything here yet as I have no gun. So I headed through the Nevada Highway Patrol Station up to the Mojave Outpost, getting shot to bits along the way. I took a few stim packs, but I made it there safely. After resting at Mojave Outpost, I realised there was nothing here that could get me enough experience to hit level 3, so I returned to the schoolhouse in Good Springs, picked that lock and then found an average safe in one of the residents' homes. And well, while my lockpicking skill is actually 51, due to the time of day, all my attributes were being drained by 1, therefore temporarily I didn't actually have enough skill to open the lock. So I just had to wait for the hours between 6 and 12 in order to open it. That's going to be a running theme in this run. Upon hitting level 3, I put my lockpick skill up to 60 and put the rest of my points into speech. I didn't need to put my lockpick skill higher than 60. This is because my attributes would be boosted between 6 and 12, giving me 65 lockpicking skill, at which point I just used the Lockpicks Reader magazine I was given. So heading back towards Prim and into the Steve Bison Hotel, I had to ignore all the enemies as I made my way to the safe where Lucky can be found. Now boosted to 75, I was able to crack the lock and get Lucky. So I've never actually used Lucky before, so let's see what... Oh my god, this is awesome. Okay, so to be fair, I'm dealing with low-level enemies at the minute, just a few convicts inside the Steve Bison Hotel in Prim, so I'm not really expecting too much resistance. The only thing that's really going to let me down at the minute is my amount of ammunition, so I'd have to travel back to Good Springs in order to buy some more. So, due to the fact that I'm not wearing armor, I am taking a considerable amount of damage. However, these low-level convicts make easy pickings for Lucky. Don't get me wrong, this wasn't altogether easy. Because there's quite a few enemies in here, one of them actually does have a flamer, and I did get killed. I also found that I was using VATS a lot less frequently than I normally would. But the good thing about Lucky is that because it's quite a fast weapon, you get lots of action points to use in VATS. So you can clear out quite a lot of enemies in one room. And due to my action points being boosted, not only do I have extra action points, but I also regenerate them a lot quicker. Although there is something extremely satisfying about being able to headshot someone from across the room without using VATS. So after rescuing Deputy Beagle, I used my science skill to get Prim Slim elected as mayor. This gave me enough experience to level up again, where I distributed my points between barter and guns. I also took the Educated perk, giving me 3 extra skill points with every level up. I then headed to Nipton, found the lucky lottery winner, blew his head off and stole his lottery ticket. I also met Vulpus, as always, in Nipton, and just for fun, I wanted to see if I could actually kill him. I did manage to, but I was no match for the rest of the Legion, so I reloaded and told him that I would spread word of the Legion's atrocities. And with that done, it was time to head to Novak. Now, there was a few Viper gunslingers along the way. I got killed once or twice trying to fight these guys, as they just outnumber me, and having no armor, I'm like a glass cannon. I realized that I'd have to pick my targets carefully, so I killed the one that was down on the road and just ignored the rest up in the mountains as I headed towards Novak. I met a travelling merchant along the way who I was able to buy some ammunition from. I also met some NCR troopers along the road who helped me deal with some of the Vipers before the Legionary swooped in and dealt with the NCR. Upon entering Novak, I gained enough experience to level up again. I put all of my skill points into guns. Then I bought as much ammunition as I could, used Manny's computer to find the location of my attackers, and stole Boone's hat. No, but seriously, I'll be using this later on for a different quest. So, even though I knew that my attackers had headed to Boulder City, I still wanted the experience from the Come Fly With Me quest given to me by Manny. So Manny actually asks you to clear out all the ghouls at the Repcon Center. Like always in New Vegas, there's several different ways of doing anything. The ferals inside the Repcon Center were absolutely no problem. 1 to 2 headshots would take them down. I met a glowing one by the name of Jason Bright and agreed to help him on his great journey. To be honest, this quest can be solved diplomatically as long as you convince the Nightkin to leave. And while I had minor difficulty dealing with the Nightkin, Davison was much too powerful, so I did have to go with the diplomatic route instead. After that, the quest essentially becomes a fetch quest kind of situation, whereby you just collect a few items to help with the great journey. You get a boat ton of experience for this. So after sending the ghoulies into space, I hit level 6 where I put all of my points into speech and took the second point from Swift Learner. Then I hacked Jeannie Mary's floor safe, proving that she sold Boone's wife, then Boone removed her head. After I arrived in Boulder City, I waited till after 6 AM in order to give myself the necessary stat boosts to try and deal with the situation diplomatically. I still didn't have a high enough speech skill, however meeting the Great Khans allowed me to level up, where I put all of my points into speech. After that it was just a simple case of convincing both parties to stand down. This gave me enough experience to level up yet again. I put every single skill point I had into guns and took the 3rd perk from Swift Learner. Upon entering Freeside, I used my 10 luck attribute to take the Atomic Wrangler to the cleaners. And although I now had enough caps to pass a credit check and get into New Vegas, I still wanted to do the missions for the Kings for the experience. You can do all of the King's missions without firing a single shot, so it's not really worth mentioning. However, it did allow me to level up again. Or rather, twice in fact. The first time I distributed my points between speech and guns. And I did the same the second time I leveled up. However, this time I was also given a perk, so I picked Gunslinger, which would allow me increased accuracy when using one-handed weapons such as pistols in VATS. So I've decided to side with Mr. House because I've never actually done that before. And unfortunately I couldn't sneak Lucky into the Tops Casino, and even though I was able to convince Benny to meet me alone, I didn't have Lucky, so I wouldn't really be allowed to kill him with anything. However, I did meet Yes Man, which allowed me to level up again, where I distributed my points once again between guns and speech. Mr. House was, shall we say, less than happy that I allowed Benny to escape with the Platinum Chip, so my next stop would be Cottonwood Cove. So after buying some more ammunition, I headed straight to Cottonwood Cove to talk to the Mighty Kaiser. After he handed over the Platinum Chip and sent me into the Lucky 38 bunker in order to see what was down there and blow it up. I mean, technically I did blow some stuff up. There are protectrons and laser turrets which I had to blow up. That counts, right? Now, to be totally honest, Lucky is not an optimal weapon for fighting robots. I mean, it was okay, but I was taking quite a bit of damage and wasting a lot of ammo in the process. I'd say the best thing that I had going for me here was my high luck and therefore my crit chance. The problem with Lucky though is that it reloads extremely slowly. I used quite a lot of stim packs within the bunker and I got absolutely wasted against the Mark V turret. And while we're on that note, something that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me is, well, this is Mr. House's bunker. The robots within the bunker belong to him, and he has sent us in here to do a mission for him. So why are his robots attacking us? After upgrading the Securitrons, I returned to Caesar, completed his mission, and I leveled up again. I put my speech skill all the way up to 95 as I wouldn't need it to go any higher, Thanks to my early riser perk, I can get up to 100 between the hours of 6 and 12. I also took the finesse perk, giving me a higher chance to score critical hits equivalent to 5 extra points of luck. And since I wasn't allowed to use any other weapons for this challenge, I had to have Benny crucified. Returning to Mr. House, I leveled up yet again, this time putting all of my points into medicine. And now it was time to deal with the other minor factions of New Vegas. Starting with the most interesting and the most useful, of course, being the boomers. Now the boomers will bomb the living hell out of Hoover Dam at the final battle, and aside from anything else, the quests are just really fun and interesting to do. Also, you can complete all the boomer quests without firing a single shot. Their quests involve things like listening to a kid talk about the history of the boomers in the museum, getting Jack a girlfriend, and of course repairing the solar panels. Now my repair skill wasn't great, but you can just salvage the arrays from the Helios 1 power plant. And after raising the B-29 bomber from the lake, we have the boomers on side. Completing the Volaire quest allowed me to level up again, where I put my gun skill all the way up to 95. I also took the Fight the Power perk, giving me a +2 damage threshold and a 5% crit chance against factions such as Legion, NCR or Brotherhood. My next quest was to deal with the Omertas in Gomorrah. I decided that I would do a bit of gambling there before trying to take down the bosses. However, because they took my weapons, I couldn't really fight them, therefore I'd have to rely on Caccino. Unfortunately, he got killed, and me not long after. So, plan B, go in guns blazing from the offset by refusing to hand over my weapons. The problem with the Omerta thugs is that they have automatic weaponry. Also, when using VATS, you will take a considerable amount of damage without being able to do anything about it. This is just a couple of attempts that I had. I did die quite a few times here. I once tried not using VATS at all, but that didn't work either. Also, I'm not really sure if I accidentally killed Caccino, or he got killed, or got caught in the crossfire, or just simply ran away. But one way or the other, by the time I got to the bosses, they thanked me for dealing with the situation. I actually ended up using so much ammo here that I had to leave and go buy some more before returning. The problem was that they weren't exactly difficult to deal with, but there was just so many of them. But with all the other opposition taken down, I was allowed to stroll back into Gomorrah with Lucky and take down both of the mob bosses. Not only did this give me fame for the strip, but I also leveled up again. I distributed my points between science and medicine. If you ask me now, I couldn't tell you why. I used Veronica to gain access to the Brotherhood of Steel bunker before pickpocketing all the scribes and using the self-destruct mechanism to blow up the bunker. Then it was just a case of running past everything shooting at me to escape. And one of the last tasks given to me by Mr. House was to protect President Kimball from an assassination attempt. Now, I've never actually sided with Mr. House before, so this was a first for me. But something just happened there. Did you catch it? Okay, let's watch that again in slow motion. Yep, an NCR trooper just knocked another one straight out of the guard tower in the distance. Also, one of the engineers, I assume also working for Caesar, ran straight at President Kimball with a knife. I mean, how stupid can you be? Well then, after helping the NCR by protecting their president from an assassination attempt, it was time to go kill some troopers at a local power station. Now, seeing how weak the NCR troopers actually are when using Lucky, I kinda wish I sided with the Legion now. Also, you'd think they would have been a little bit more accommodating towards me, seeing as I, protected their president from certain death, but never mind. After installing the override chip, I gained enough experience to level up again. I put all of my skill points into medicine as I believed this would be the last time that I'd be leveling up, but then I got a perk, so I picked Here and Now, which allowed me to level up yet again. And I just decided to tank the rest of the points into medicine. I knew I'd need quite a few stim packs for dealing with Caesar's legions. Then, after buying some more ammunition, it was time to do the second battle of Hoover Dam. So to start with, I hadn't even met or bothered with the Great Khans, so they were fighting for Caesar. However, I wouldn't exactly call 3 Khans difficult to deal with. I'm really not sure why there wasn't more of them. The Legion, however, in particular the Centurions, were really difficult. And what's more, I feel like the NCR and Securitrons were both extremely underwhelming and extremely undernumbered. I had to do near enough all of the fighting on my own, crouching behind the sandbags while I reloaded Lucky. Like, I really can't emphasize this enough, the NCR presence at the Second Battle of Hoover Dam was absolutely pathetic. The Securitrons did help to some degree, but for the most part this battle was effectively just using the legionaries as target practice. Eventually I fought my way into one of the officers. Now, the Prime Legionaries were actually easier to take down than the Centurions, and in close quarters I just had a better time dealing with them. However, the obvious problem was that they were wasting a lot of ammo. A lot of ammo I would need for Lanius. Also, I managed to convince the Brotherhood of Steel to take a hike. It doesn't really make any sense when you think about it, since I kind of destroyed their bunker and wiped out their faction, yet they're still at the Battle of Hoover Dam. But with the excess power that Mr. House now possessed, we gained access to more Securitrons, who wiped out the rest of the Legion for me as I made my way into the Legate's camp. I'm going on record as saying that unless given some challenge, I will never be voluntarily siding with Mr. House again. His faction is just terrible, his Securitrons are stupid and get blown up too easily. So the Praetorian Guard were a nightmare on ice skates to deal with. They were absolute bullet sponges, and it took a full round of ammo into their heads plus a reload unless I got a lucky crit to take these things down. And since the NCR and the Securitrons had been so useless, I had used a significant amount of ammo and I was starting to run out. I managed to shoot my way into the Legate's camp using what little stim packs and hollow point ammo that I had. So I spent so long trying to clear out what enemies were left in the Legate's camp, as well as finding somewhere to maybe rest and wait until 6 AM, that it was actually dark by the time I decided, screw this, let's just fight them and see what happens. I mean, I knew I didn't have the 100 speech check in order to complete the game without fighting him, so I did give it a couple of tries. However, I just wasn't able to kill him. I took the confirmed bachelor perk after leveling up. I did some damage to him. Unfortunately, he does have Praetorian guards with him. If he was on his own, I might have just stood a chance at this. Now, I gave this many attempts, and I had one final backup plan. However, I couldn't use the wait command to wait until after 6 AM. In order to finish the game now, I would need 100 speech skill. But since I couldn't wait here, what I had to do instead was, well, I literally had to leave my character standing perfectly still in the middle of the Legate's camp until 6 AM rolled round, at which point I would have attribute boosts giving me a speech skill of 100, and that's how I finished Fallout New Vegas using Lucky. So first of all, I just want to thank you once again for the challenge suggestion. If you guys do have any challenge suggestions, please do let me know. I am keen to try new things and new challenges. Lucky was an interesting weapon to use. I regret severely siding with Mr. House. I will never ever be doing that again. It was the first time I've ever done it. But Lucky itself is actually quite a good gun. I don't think I could have gotten through this as easily without my boosted attributes from the early Riser perk. And I think I probably would have had an easier time had I sided with the Legion, but mistakes were made. So that's where we'll leave it today, guys. I just want to thank you all so much for watching. Please like, subscribe and all that good stuff. Leave any comments if you do have any, and I will see you guys in the next challenge. Take care.